Today, we're getting into the wild story of how Japan's decision to share its high-speed rail technology, its national treasure with China, completely kicked off a global rivalry. We're talking ambition, betrayal, and a technological race like no other. So the big question, did China steal Japan's bullet train? Well, the answer is a lot more dramatic than you might think. Okay, let's just set the stage here. I want you to imagine spending 4 decades of your life building the safest, most precise machine on the planet. This thing isn't just a product, right? It's a symbol of your country's entire identity, a monument to a culture of perfection. Now, what if your biggest rival shows up with basically a blank check? They're offering you the largest market in human history. The catch? The price is your blueprints, your engineers, all your secrets. That was the impossible choice Japan was staring down in the early 2000s, and it's the fuse that lights this entire story. And believe me, the stakes could not have been higher. On one side, you've got Japan's Shinkansen, 40 years, over 6 billion passengers, and not a single fatality from a crash. Zero. Just absolute perfection. On the other side, you've got China's railway system in the 90s, a relic crawling along at just 48 kilometers an hour, and it was a massive bottleneck that was threatening their whole economic miracle. So to really understand Japan's side of this, you first have to get what the Shinkansen really means to them. It is so much more than just a train. In Japan, the Shinkansen is considered a kokuhou, a national treasure. And this isn't just some casual term. It is a formal, official designation for priceless cultural artifacts. Things like ancient temples and priceless samurai swords. That is the level of reverence we are talking about here. It was a symbol of the country's incredible post-war comeback. And this intense pride is perfectly embodied by men like Yoshiyuki Kasai, the super powerful chairman of JR Central. His resistance to sharing the tech, it wasn't just about business. He believed the real secret to the Shinkansen wasn't the hardware, but this intangible soul, this deeply ingrained culture of safety. He was terrified that China would just copy the machine, push it way too hard, and completely stain the legacy of Japanese perfection. Okay, now let's flip the script and look at China's perspective. They got why Japan was hesitating, but they also understood the immense power they held. They weren't just another customer, they were the entire market. And they set a very clear, completely non-negotiable price of entry. This was their famous market for technology strategy. You want in on the biggest infrastructure project of the century? Fine, you have to form a joint venture. You have to systematically transfer your key tech. You have to build the trains in China, and, this is the kicker, you have to hand over all future improvements. Let's be clear, this was not a purchase. It was a state-sponsored apprenticeship. So, the dam finally broke in 2004. While JR Central held its ground and refused, a group led by Kawasaki Heavy Industries took the deal. And they put China's strategy right into action. The first few trains, built in Japan. The next few, assembled in China from Japanese kits. But the vast majority, 51 of them, were going to be manufactured from scratch in China, using the technology they'd just been given. For Kawasaki, it was a calculated risk. For the hardliners in Japan, it felt like a total betrayal. And with those contracts signed, the story enters a whole new phase. See, China wasn't just learning how to follow a recipe, it was learning how to write the cookbook for itself. This whole process was guided by a simple, but honestly a ferocious 4-step mantra: introduction, digestion, absorption, and re-innovation. This wasn't passive learning, no way. It was an active, state-funded mission to deconstruct and master foreign tech with the one and only goal of not just matching it, but leapfrogging it. And the results? You could actually measure them. This slide shows a massive 42% spike in high-speed rail patents in the exact Chinese cities where the technology was being transferred. China didn't just absorb the blueprints, it used its new rail network to connect its best and brightest, creating this nationwide innovation engine that was just moving at an incredible speed. Pretty soon, China was rolling out its own re-innovated trains, and the results weren't just on paper. The Japanese base model ran at 275 kilometers per hour. China's new train was operating at 350. But look at that last number, the derailment factor, a key safety metric. China's engineers took it from 0.73 down to just 0.13. This wasn't just copying. This was a serious, quantifiable leap forward in engineering. The sense of betrayal back in Japan was just profound. China started filing for international patents on what the Japanese saw as their own core technology. This quote from a Kawasaki executive really says it all. The student wasn't just graduating, they were getting ready to put the teacher out of business on the world stage. But then, on the evening of July 23, 2011, right at the peak of this dispute, the whole story took a really dark and tragic turn. Near the city of Wenzhou, a bullet train stopped dead on the tracks after a lightning strike. Just minutes later, because of a signal failure, a second train slammed right into it. But the most shocking part came after. Authorities brought in excavators and literally started burying the wrecked carriages, an act that the whole world saw as a blatant attempt to just bury the evidence. 40 people were killed, and this tragedy became the single most powerful piece of evidence for Japan's whole argument. It perfectly captured their fear that China's obsession with speed had come at the ultimate price, proving that maybe they had copied the hardware, but not the soul of safety. This entire saga, from the deal to the disaster, it created a brand new global reality. The world of high-speed rail was now a battlefield, with two Asian superpowers fighting for dominance. So let's get back to our original question. Was it a heist? Legally, probably not. China signed contracts and they paid billions of dollars. But ethically, a lot of people would say yes. China broke the spirit of the partnership, which was only supposed to be for use inside their own country. The heist wasn't really of the technology itself, but of a competitive future. And this rivalry is now playing out all across the globe. For Indonesia's first high-speed rail line, China came in and won with an incredible financial offer that didn't add to the national debt. For India's project, Japan won, and they played their strongest cards, their flawless safety record and an unbelievably generous long-term loan. Two huge projects, two different winners, and two totally competing philosophies. This whole saga, forged in the steel of that 2004 contract, now gives the developing world a really clear choice. On one side, you have a model that's built on breathtaking speed and incredible financial muscle. On the other, a model built on a half-century of trust and absolutely flawless execution. So the question for the next decade is, which path will the rest of the world choose to ride?